Hello, guys. So we are now in Brussels at Modular Summit, and here with you Anna Tutova, co-founder of Telegram, and our guest Mert Mumtaz, who is co-founder of Helius Labs, and they're building a platform for developer tools who want to build on Solana. So great to have you here, Mert.
Thanks for having me, yes.
So I know your background was in Coinbase, but can you tell more? How did you discover crypto first, and how did you get involved?
Sure. So I went to school for applied math in radio communications engineering and
Canada?
in Canada in Queen's University. And I actually wanted to do theoretical physics at first, and so I took a lot of courses in cryptography and kind of related systems problems, distributed systems, etc. And I then actually worked at BlackBerry when BlackBerry was a thing. And I actually loved it quite a bit. I worked there for about a year, and that kind of made me want to kind of pivot from more of an academic background to more of like a pragmatic business building, whatever background. And so I got a job working as an engineer building some infrastructure and payments networks for three of the big banks in Canada. So Canada is like a oligopoly ruled by five banks, and I worked at three of them. And I found the pace quite slow and bureaucratic, and it didn't really feel like any change was happening. And so I joined a few startups that were focused on, being a fintech company and helping modernize the financial stack in a sense. And I remember one day I was building something to send money from Canada to Australia. And the way you had to do it was that you send the money and it has to hop through these local jurisdictions. And I was like, this is so inefficient and stupid. Why not just use something like a USDC and it'll just go there instantly? And basically the answer was something like crypto's a scam. And I was like, okay, that's not a great answer. And so I started working at Coinbase like roughly 3 weeks after that. And then at Coinbase, I was on the platform team where we basically built APIs that power all of Coinbase. So Coinbase.com, Coinbase Wallet. Anytime the money moves around at Coinbase, that's kind of the platform APIs they use. And while doing that, I got to look at all the different blockchains and work with them and identify the gaps and see what was happening. And then there I came across Solana, which had a lot of promise and potential for being one of the first scalable kind of base layers. Now that's changed. Now there's a few, but at the time Solana was the only one. But the developer experience was awful, where we likened it to chewing glass, basically. And yeah, it was just super difficult. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to quit Coinbase, and I'm going to help solve some of these problems, because I think if solved, then the probability of app developers being able to build things that actually impact people and push the mission of crypto forward would be greater. And so that's the story.
So did you discover crypto just when you started working with Coinbase, or was it much earlier?
I discovered in school, roughly maybe 2017. I mean, obviously, I had already known about Bitcoin. Everybody had, but 2017.
Did you invest into it back then?
I did a little bit into Ethereum. So I had already known Bitcoin, but Ethereum was kind of having more like DeFi applications and useful things happening around like 2017, 2018. But I actually had this erroneous notion that you kind of needed to be like an academic or whatnot to contribute meaningfully. So I don't think I understood it that well at that time. And obviously my whole thing was I want to be pragmatic and just ship stuff. And so I went maybe the industry route, which looking back was good because I got to learn about how the financial system already works. And yeah, so I first saw it in school.
And in what did you see the value of crypto back then besides the payments?
Yes. So this is pretty abstract, but basically, I'm a huge believer in capitalism and free markets. And if you look, I have a blog post on this about like the end state of crypto. And basically, I think the reason why crypto is super important, and arguably the most important thing in this next, let's say, 100 years, in my view, obviously I'm biased, is because we've kind of seen in all sorts of systems where if you have like a centrally planned, let's say, committee that helps decide or helps make decisions on a centralized layer, so like like a communism layer or something like that, it generally tends to lead to subpar outcomes. Whereas if you have like a decentralized flow of information and capital and talent and labor and all this, those people kind of find problems that interest them. And if there are no intermediaries and stuff, it can be much more efficient and on actually a global scale. And so the reason why I think it's important is because once you can kind of decentralize all information flows and capital flows and value flows, then I think humanity can fundamentally improve the state of the world. And I mean, you can kind of look at existing examples, like there's North Korea, which is centrally planned. There's South Korea, which is kind of decentralized. And South Korea has things like Samsung and like Hyundai and all these successful companies that came out of that era, whereas North Korea maybe not so much. And so it's fundamentally just taking that and decentralizing it to all value and information flows.
And well, that you discovered later Solana. So what fascinates you about Solana?
Yeah, so as I said earlier, I majored in like radio and communications engineering. And what's interesting is Solana is kind of engineered as like this giant radio in a sense where it's like a giant state channel where people can send messages across at the speed of light as fast as physics allows, and it's uncensorable, and so you don't have to worry about like these intermediate layers and whatnot. And so, actually, so Helius is both co-founders, Liam and Nick, additionally to me, we all did the same program. We all did kind of that program, and so when we saw it, we were like, okay, we actually know this stuff, at least much more so than the other stuff that already exists. So we can actually provide value here. And so we just kind of started looking around and identify a lot of problems that once solved would make a pretty big difference in crypto. And I think that's played out pretty well so far, because when we started the company, actually, a few months after FTX happened, and so the entire market collapsed, and everybody was like, Solana's dead, Solana's a scam chain, all this stuff. But
we think to make provide developer tools on the chain at this time?
No. So we our not our investors, but investors in general, we're always quite skeptical that, hey, Solana's small, it's dying, whatever, all this stuff. But since we had already put in the work and understood this, the tech and whatnot, we were like, actually, that's not quite true. Once you can kind of get X, Y, and Z solved on Solana, you can actually build a lot of cool things. And nobody believed us at the time. And this is like Solana went down to like $8 at some point. And obviously, since then, yeah. So since then, we have kind of proven them wrong pretty effectively. I would say Solana is now flipped a bunch of other chains on a lot of metrics, including like economic value, obviously performance, quality startups building on top of them. So yeah, that's why Solana.
And in future, do you think people provide developer tools on the chain too, or for now you see on Solana?
So the way I think about this is not necessarily about, which chains do we go to. It's more so we're very focused on the application developer. And the application developer doesn't necessarily care about what is the name of the blockchain that I'm building on. They care that their app scales, is cheap, works, and they don't have to worry about all the infrastructure quirks that it has. And so we think that Solana currently is the most scalable base layer that you can build applications on top of. If that ever changes, such that another chain comes up with new constructs to enable better app development, then yes, we will expand. But one of my strongest beliefs is that there's a saying, a friend to all is a friend to none. It's the same with infrastructure providers, right? If you're providing infrastructure for like 30 different chains at the same time, then you're not really providing a great, amazing service for any single one chain. You're kind of splitting your attention and focus. And so I do believe in kind of being super enshrined into a native protocol like Solana.
And currently we see the funding for a lot of new ones, layer 1s, layer 2s, there are some layer 2s on Solana too. What are your thoughts on that? What are your thoughts on other chains?
Well, fundamentally, I think anything that helps maximize the probability of success for crypto is a net good, because I don't think we have mass adoption or any of these things. And so if people are experimenting and they have capital that they're able to get to build things that potentially help more people onboard to space, I'm all for that. I don't really care what the name of the chain is called or what architecture they use. I think that's not good. The thing I dislike is like sometimes these people will like raise money and then their entire mission is like use us because like Solana is bad or something like super simplistic and naive, and that's not necessarily productive to the space. Like by all means, you can criticize legit, valid shortcomings of Solana in a thoughtful way and whatnot, and that should be done always. But if you're kind of just like don't understand Solana, you just kind of make stuff up to push some marketing campaign, it's probably not great, and I will call you out. Yeah.
And in your opinion, how can we achieve mass adoption of crypto?
So it's a good question because I don't think the question has been phrased correctly in the past like 10, 12 years now, which is to say everybody kind of wants mass adoption, but what we actually don't want mass adoption. We want adoption. So that is to say,
So do you think it should be still like very narrow area where only like technical or
so I'll give you an
very
example.
like exclusive group of people will be using crypto?
I will say, I'll give you an example. The people that you need to go after are the people who actually need the thing. So for example, um, you can look at something like uh, let's say Airbnb. Okay, Airbnb, they targeted people who kind of have extra space in their room or whatever, and just rent it out. They didn't just go after every single human alive. They went after a very specific target. Same with like, if you have like like um, Nike, okay? Nike, they didn't go after every single human on earth. At first, they went after people who really care about athletics, running, all this stuff. Same with cars, like BMW goes after people who have like a different price range than somebody who might want another car. And so what needs to happen is people need to get this idea of mass adoption out of their heads and instead go for what set of problems are important enough to this set of people and how can crypto help solve them, okay? So for example, payments is a good one. People in like, let's say, Latam or something, they don't have the best payment rails, and it's like go after them very hard, fix their problems super fast or super effectively, and then that's not like mass adoption because there's not that many people there. The set of all people on Earth is much smaller than that or bigger than that. But if you can solve it for them, then that's adoption, and people are actually using the thing every day in their lives. And maybe that inspires somebody else to say, oh, wait, I can also use this tech to help this other people. And maybe those other people are people who are creators, right? Maybe they want to create content, and they don't like the fact that YouTube censors them or something. And so I would rephrase like mass adoption to like, or the thing that I hate the most is when people say like, we have to onboard the next billion. I'm like, okay, so you should probably actually onboard the next like 10,000 and then the next 100,000 and the next million. But it needs to be done in a way that you're not kind of just like throwing everything out there and saying like, use us just because we exist. It's like, no, use us because we solve your problem better than anybody else. And we do it with crypto.
Yeah. So who should be the target group for Solana in this case?
So Solana since a blockchain, it aims to be a general infrastructure that people can build applications or services on top of. So you can build payments apps, you can build decentralized like physical infrastructure networks like mobile networks. You can build decentralized finance applications, NFTs, creator economy things. It's important that Solana focuses, like by Solana I mean like core Solana engineers, just focus on like the scalability and sustainability of the chain. And then teams like us, for example, Helius, we come on top and we say, okay, we're going to take this generalized layer and then we're going to save some segments and we're going to target only the application developers. And then there can be another team that comes on top that only wants to help, let's say, Turkish people make grocery payments or something like that because it has better rails. And so the base layer should be like relatively unopinionated in where they go, but people on top of it should be very focused and targeted.
And here as well to cooperate with additional companies like Shopify, Discord. You help them with the integration of Solana. So can you tell more about this and with what other big Web2 players do work?
Yeah, so there are some of these large companies. So for example, like Exodus, Shopify, Discord, um, Coinbase, etc. Ledger, they all use us, and the reason is because Solana is kind of complex, and people, like I said earlier, they don't want to worry about all these weird nuances that come with low-level system details that nobody actually cares about. They just want to say like, hey, we want to enable like payments on Shopify where when you check out, you can just pay with Solana or something. And so we just say, okay, cool. Here's something that you can use for that. We'll show you how to use it. We'll help you set it up. We'll monitor it. And you can just worry about your go-to-market and your business and your product. And Solana's kind of abstracted away from you.
And to which extent do you use personally crypto payments?
I use it actually for paying some of my own staff. I use it for interacting with. So, for example, if I go to a bar or something and we have like a build out, you want to split or something, I'll pay them in crypto. Or if I want to gift somebody, let's say for a birthday or something, I'll use crypto. At Solana Breakpoint, there's like vending machines and stuff or like coffee machines where you would just use Solana. In New York, actually, there's a bar called Fool's Gold, and it's right below the Solana office. And when you go down to the bar, you can just pay for beer and whatnot with Solana.
That is mass adoption.
It's certainly adoption for that set of people because I use it, but there's a lot of work there to be done.
And as well, Solana became the home for almost all meme coins. So what's your thoughts on meme coins? Do you invest yourself into those?
I do not invest in meme coins. The only thing I invest in is HSOL, which is Helius's version of a liquid staking token on Solana, which is say if you stake with the Helius validator, you get an HSOL token, and all my savings are in that because it's my company, so I got to put skin in the game there, and I believe in it, and it gives you like 9% yield. I don't invest in meme coins because I don't think you can invest in meme coins necessarily. A good example is that I've seen done well on Solana is a coin called Bonk, where it's actually not necessarily a meme coin, but more like a stealth startup, where they use the money that they get or that they raise from like airdropping and like the price appreciation and speculation to actually build services. So like a Bonk bot, DAO tooling, events for Solana builders to onboard more builders onto the space.
They made some crazy parties in London recently.
Yes, they had one where they had like a big bonk dog and stuff, and it's cool because they use the money that they gain from speculation. And by the way, the teams, the people behind Bonk are actually super talented operators. They're not like some degens they are degens, but they're not like, they actually want to help things succeed. Like they airdrop to, I used to run a platform called Lamport DAO for developers on Solana, and we airdropped them a lot of Bonk, and that Bonk was worth over $100,000 at one point for free, right? And that is to say, it helps some developers actually stay afloat during the kind of dark days of Solana. And so there's certainly a way it can be used for good. Obviously, due to the incentive mechanisms in crypto where you can just instantly get rich and exit, most people don't do that. Probably 99% of people do not do that. But it can be done well, and I think Bonk is roughly the only example I've seen that work so far.
And as well, can you share what the other altcoins do you have in your portfolio besides
altcoins?
Yeah.
I don't have any other coins other than HSOL. I do, well, in a meaningful amount. I hold some Ethereum, a little bit, and some Near as well. I like Near. I like the team a lot there.
Near and Solana are quite the competitors.
Competition is good. It pushes everybody forward. I have a fund, so I do invest a lot. So I invest in Monad, Berachain, Mega ETH on an investor level. But in terms of the coins that I hold, it's by far the majority is HSOL.
Okay. As Angel, do you invest only in the chain, or do you consider it of other companies?
No, I invest in a bunch of things. Really, my thesis is, or not my thesis, but my area of interest is, first of all, can I help these founders? Do they have some shortcomings that I can uniquely provide value to? Maybe that's go-to-market or marketing, messaging, or maybe it's infrastructure. But it doesn't matter what they do, as long as they're helping push crypto forward. I don't care what chain they build on. I don't care what app it is. I don't care, what their name is, whatever. All that matters is push crypto forward.
And as well, in your opinion, for how long will we see this bull market?
I'm not sure if we're in a bull market, to be completely honest. I'm like an engineer, so I find it very hard to reason about cycles and kind of like market macro stuff, because I think a lot of it it's non-linear, which is to say that if something happens that you didn't see coming today, tomorrow, everything changes and everything you thought you knew was wrong. And so I don't think in terms of cycles, I just think in terms of, are we getting more users? Are developers building? Are startups getting funding? That's the only signals I look at.
Okay, so how can we get more users? How can we bring more people to
Well, fundamentally, just build things people want and need. So, kind of the theme to all of this is identify some problems that people have. You know, maybe you go to Istanbul and you notice that the lira's inflation is 80%. Okay, can you provide these people with an alternative service such that their livelihoods aren't inflated away to death? And maybe you can get access to international markets with like maybe yield-bearing stablecoins or something like that. But it depends on what problems those users have. And so the job of any founder is identify problems that real people have and then work backwards to a solution. If that solution involves crypto, great. It doesn't have to. But fundamentally, everybody skips the first step, which is talking to users and identifying the problems. Instead, what they do is they build something and then they try to like be like, here, use this. But then that person is like, why should I use this? Why do I care about this? And so that needs to just be flipped around.
And now can you share some current plans for development of this?
Yes, we just released something called ZK compression on Solana, which reduces development costs by about 6,000x. We will be releasing more tools for high-frequency traders and application development on Solana, as well as a new block explorer that will make the chain actually human-readable. And then we will be working to make Solana scale 100x from now.
That's great. Thank you for sharing your thoughts and developments with us. Great to have you.
Of course, thanks for having me.